So yeah, you mentioned peacock feathers, Diane, associated with Amitabha, who's going to be our our kind of focus for today, but particularly awareness associated with Amitabha. So I was talking before, we looked at Akshobhya and Ratnasambhava and each of the jinnas or Buddhas of the five Buddha mandala having associated with them a wisdom, and how we might, explore those wisdom aspects, through meditation in a practical sense. So we've got Akshobhya, which is the mirror-like wisdom, which is usually the place that we enter into the mandala. And we've got Ratnasambhava, who we looked at last week, which represents this open aspect of awareness, that awareness is completely open. And we explored that through the image of the sky-like mind. So yeah, this week, Amitabha, and Amitabha's associated wisdom is called the distinguishing wisdom, all distinguishing wisdom. So or uniqueness. So why distinguishing? So from a point of view of awareness sees everything that arises within it, and everything it sees that arises within it, which is our six senses, you could see as arising in this space of awareness. Even our thoughts or all of our mental constructs also arising in this space of awareness. But there's some way in which awareness is distinct from, not the same, because it's the thing that's seeing the arising experience. It's seeing what arises in the six senses. It sees, it knows our sensate experience, our perceptions of whatever kind through the senses, and also our thoughts, our mental constructs are also seen. And we had a little look, I think it was last week, wasn't it? Yes. We did a little look at thought and how even our thoughts, arise into that space. And we tend to have a strong identification with our thinking, and we think that we are our thinking. So we were looking at that and whether that is really the case. So yes, everything that manifests, this is to do with the wisdom of Amitabha. So everything that manifests in our experience, all the conditioning factors in our experience, are seen in awareness. And in that seeing, there's an acceptance of. And you can say that awareness accepts everything that arises in it. What doesn't tend to be accepting of our experience is our mind, that the mental constructs and ideas we have about how things shouldn't be, what we do, don't want, etc. So, this is what the Buddha talked about as our craving and our aversion responses to life. But awareness itself just sees everything and totally accepts everything, and is intimate with everything that arises in it. So everything that arises in our experience, awareness is completely intimate with it. And this is so Amitabha is associated with love, with compassion. And everything that is seen, everything that is known, it's a bit like when we really know another person, when we really understand another person, our response to them is love. Doesn't mean that we necessarily agree with everything they do or like everything that they do, but we can understand a person's world point of view, or when we come to understand a person's world point of view, and see the conditioning factors that have gone into make up their life, our response to them changes. So, it's our ignorance that prevents our compassion in a lot of ways. So our ignorance of another person, and I think it's a good example, with other people. But when we really know them, it's very hard then not to have some feeling, because we see, our shared humanity. We see that them as an individual struggling under the conditions that they have, and some of those conditions being obviously difficult conditions from the past. So, it's the same, you could say, with awareness, that it's intimate. Once it knows everything that arises in it, it's totally accepting of everything that arises in it. And another way of talking about that is it doesn't split off from experience. So one of the ways that our mind is operating, our thinking mind, egoic thinking mind is operating, is it tends to split us off. So it creates this sense of there's other, there's self, there's me, and the world. And that basic split that occurs because the mind is not seeing the oneness, the intimacy, the openness, the non-difference of experience, it splits us off from, well, first of all, it splits us off from ourselves, parts of our own experience, which I'm sure we're all aware of. But it splits us off from other people, and it splits us off from the world in general. Yeah, so this is the loving, you could call this the Amitabha phase, as the loving aspect of awareness. That seeing that love comes out of this knowing of this intimacy with our own experience, first of all, and extending from that, in our relationship to, well, everything else that comes into our experience, other people, the world. Okay. Hmm. So it's, in a way, it's the ultimate receptive state. Simply sort of dropping further into awareness, which is what we've been exploring, with this simply being pure awareness approach, dropping further into awareness. It's the ultimate receptive state. And in a way, this is what just sitting is. It's that being with whatever arises in experience, being totally open, like the blue sky, to whatever arises within it. And at the same time, unaffected by it, in the sense that it doesn't start off a pattern of craving or aversion towards our experience, but the opposite. It brings us into a greater intimacy with all arising experience. So I hope that's making some sense. I mean, this can start to get quite subtle. So the best way is to just try and explore this through our direct experience, and we'll do a meditation today that hopefully will help us to see something of awareness's non-separation and its intimacy with everything that arises in it. Okay, so let's set up for our meditation. So we can start by just attending to our posture, making sure we've got a good base to support meditation practice. And tuning in with our sensate experience. So consciously unhooking from the thinking mind and coming into direct sensate experience, awareness of the sensate body, the tactile body. So we spend so much time in our heads that a lot of the time we're not really aware of the body, or we're not aware of it in and of itself. Might be aware when something happens to it. So sometimes the transition from awareness or attention residing in our thinking minds to coming into direct bodily experience, it can be a bit uncomfortable. It's a bit like the head doesn't want to go to the body, or attention doesn't want to unhook from what seems like its comfortable place in the thinking mind into direct bodily experience. When we make that transition into awareness within tactile experience, there can be a huge sense of relief, satisfaction, feeling of grounding. Can even feel like a coming home experience. Just allowing awareness to sink down from the mind into the body sensations. And as we've been practicing this for a while, most of us over the last, I don't know how many weeks, 10 or 15 weeks, we'll be able to quickly come to the appreciation of the tactile body in direct awareness appears somewhat differently to our mental idea of it. So we may experience it something a bit more like energetic clouds of tingling. You may well be able to also be able to notice that there's much more spaciousness. The mind has an idea of the body as being something very solid with a defined edge, which is the skin. In our direct awareness, is that how bodily experience appears? So, not thinking about this, but just seeing. Taking in all the body, all the sensations that might arise. Obviously, that doesn't mean going looking for every one of them, but just a general sense of receptivity to all of the bodily experience. all the sensate experience that's currently within awareness. So taking that sensate experience and this awareness of it, a sense of a larger space of some kind within which sensations of the body are arising. So an image might be a blank white screen upon which that fizzing, tingling energy is like dots appearing on the screen, or little marks on a sheet of white paper, something like that. Another image, of course, is the blue sky. That awareness is like the blue sky, and the body sensations are like wisps of cloud in that blue sky. We may have a sense of awareness itself being somehow larger than anything that arises in it, just as the blue sky is vast. We can't actually find the edge of the blue sky. So the blue sky is without actual boundary. And from the point of view of that blue sky, everything that arises in it is simply arising. So we may have a sense of some part of our experience, body, or maybe sounds that we don't want. But the blue sky itself just allows everything to arise in it. In fact, we could see that everything that arises out of the blue sky. This blue sky of awareness, which is unbounded, what arises in that blue sky. Where does it come from? Does it come from outside the blue sky, from outside of awareness? Something from outside that's placed into it? Can anything arise in awareness from the outside? It's a bit like, can there be an outside to space? So we have space inside a room, space outside a room. Really, it's all just space. So space inside. If the building that room is taken down, does space get any bigger? It's the same space inside and outside of the walls that are constructed. So can awareness ever really have an inside or an outside? Simply being, this allowing, accepting, open space of awareness. And maybe we can also see that any sense of resistance to our experience is not coming from that open space of awareness itself, but it's coming from our thinking mind. Awareness itself is completely at ease, completely intimate, completely one with whatever arises in it. Whatever arises in the blue sky also disappears. And it's arising and disappearing. It leaves no stain or mark upon the blue sky itself. Awareness remains simply awareness, unmarked, unstained by all the comings and goings within it. This capacity of awareness to be with whatever arises, is the loving aspect of awareness. Love and awareness are not two things. This great receptivity, everything that arises, to be with. And in fact, the non-difference of awareness and everything that is arising in it. vast, receptive, all allowing, spacious awareness like the blue sky. Just like we were talking about at the beginning of the meditation, coming into the sensate body, coming one with the sensations. In the same way, everything that is arising in this space of awareness, we can become one with. So any sounds, allowing awareness to soak into, saturate into all sounds, just as we did with the sensate body. If we can allow ourselves to do this, to saturate into all those sounds as part of that blue sky, intimate with that blue sky. Notice the resistance to things may disappear. and even our thoughts. Like birds, they just swoop quickly through that blue sky, non-different from it, just allowing them to come and go like birds and free within that blue sky. Gone almost as soon as they arise. The blue sky itself doesn't hold on to them. Just like sounds, they leave no mark, no stain upon the blue sky.